At 4:12 in the morning, 180 nautical miles southeast of the Strait of Hormuz, a single F-35C launched from the flight deck of USS Abraham Lincoln, climbed into the dark, shut off every active emission on the aircraft, and vanished from Iranian radar. Not destroyed, not lost, deliberately invisible. What followed over the next 47 minutes would quietly rewrite the American intelligence picture of Iranian air defense capability in ways Tehran still cannot fully account for, because Iran never knew the real mission had already succeeded before their first fighter left the runway. Before we dive in, comment where you are watching from and click subscribe. To understand why this night matters, you need to understand what preceded it. Weeks earlier, an Iranian F-4 Phantom fell out of the sky under circumstances that the Iranian government moved aggressively to conceal. The wreckage was recovered with unusual speed. The crash site was sealed before independent observers could reach it. The official statement offered possible mechanical failure, possible pilot error, in language that carried the specific texture of a narrative being constructed rather than reported. American signals intelligence registered what came immediately after. Encrypted communications traffic spiked between Bandar Abbas and Isfahan. Coastal radar installations began running search patterns they had not previously run. A facility near Shiraz that the CIA had monitored for 18 months suddenly generated sustained activity at hours that made no operational sense unless engineers were working through the night on something urgent. Something had been recovered from that wreck. Something was being studied, reverse-engineered, and pushed into service at a pace that alarmed the analysts watching the signals. Washington needed to know precisely what Iran had extracted from that aircraft and precisely how far along that extraction had progressed. The only reliable method was to send something into Iranian airspace that Iranian air defense could not resist responding to, and then record with every available sensor exactly how they responded. The F-35C was the bait. The reaction would be the intelligence. The collection architecture was already in place before the F-35 left the catapult. 60,000 feet above the transit corridor, an RC-135V/W Rivet Joint reconnaissance aircraft held a silent orbit with no active emissions and no radar. The Rivet Joint is the most capable airborne signals intelligence platform in the American inventory. Its sensors are designed to record the complete electromagnetic output of an air defense network operating under genuine threat stimulus, every search radar frequency, every fire control mode transition, every encrypted radio exchange between pilots and ground controllers, the full electronic anatomy of a system that had been carefully quiet for months. The Rivet Joint had all night. Iran had no indication it was there. That absence of awareness was not incidental. It was the architecture of the entire operation. What Iran would see on its screens was a single ambiguous contact of uncertain character. What America had overhead was a recording platform waiting for Iran to reveal itself completely. The pilot designated Viper 1, call sign Webb, crossed into the intercept corridor and reduced speed slightly, making his radar cross-section marginally more detectable to the coastal acquisition radars below. This was a deliberate and precisely calculated act. Not enough exposure to confirm the contact as a stealth aircraft, enough to generate uncertainty, enough to compel a response. The E-2D Hawkeye airborne early warning aircraft, orbiting well to the south and feeding targeting data directly into Webb's helmet-mounted display, showed the Iranian radar network running its standard search patterns. Methodical sweeps, professional intervals. The product of an air defense establishment that had spent 4 decades under sanctions learning to sustain capability with minimal resources. Webb watched the sweeps complete their cycles. He waited. 11 minutes. That was all it took. Bandar Abbas Air Base detonated with electromagnetic activity. The Rivet Joint operators experienced it as a cascade, acquisition radars surging to full power simultaneously, the electronic equivalent of every light in a building switching on at once. Ground-based fire control systems transitioning from standby to active. communication circuits flooding with rapid Farsi that National Security Agency language teams were already processing in real time. And on the E-2D's tactical display, 6 contacts appearing in rapid succession, climbing hard off the Bandar Abbas runway in paired formations, their radar altimeter emissions announcing their altitude continuously in a way that no one aboard those aircraft had thought to suppress. F-4 E-Phantoms, 6 of them, all armed, all climbing with the urgency that does not come from a training schedule. The F-4 Phantom entered service in 1960. Iran acquired its fleet before the revolution and has maintained those airframes under sanctions for more than 40 years through a combination of cannibalization, reverse engineering, and domestic manufacturing of replacement components. They are not museum pieces. They are operational combat aircraft flown by trained pilots. But they were designed to fight a threat environment that existed in 1970. They were now being sent to intercept something designed in 2010 to be invisible to everything that existed in 1970. Webb looked at the display, 6 against 1. Every trained instinct told him to accelerate, to maneuver, to open the distance immediately. He held his position. The mission required that Iran believe for a few more minutes that they had located something catchable. The F-4s executed a bracket intercept, which is the correct geometry for this scenario. 2 aircraft pushed north to cut the escape route. 2 drove east to deny lateral maneuvering room. The lead pair climbed directly toward Webb's last known position, their fire control radars transitioning from search mode to acquisition mode, sweeping in progressively tighter arcs as they approached. The maneuver was professionally executed. The pilots were doing exactly what their training prescribed. They believed they were closing on a target. Webb stepped left 30 degrees. The lead pair swept through empty sky where he had been 3 seconds earlier. Their radars returned nothing. Their pilots, working in cockpits built from 40 years of accumulated Iranian aviation institutional memory, found themselves tracking a contact that simply relocated without warning. The Rivet Joint recorded the acquisition sweeps, the searching, the failure to find, the searching again. Analysts aboard noted with clinical precision that the modified fire control system performed exactly as post-crash intelligence assessment had predicted it would. Improved. Not sufficient. At 4:41, Sierra 2 found him. The radar lock tone hit Webb's helmet with the abruptness of a physical impact. Sharp and unambiguous, it is the sound that reduces a pilot's entire cognitive process to a single geometric question about time, distance, and angle. He broke hard right and dispensed chaff. Chaff consists of clouds of metallic filaments designed to generate false returns and break radar coherence. The lock broke in 4 seconds. Sierra 2 overshot, its pilot pulling the nose around hard to reacquire a contact that had stopped existing in the expected location. 11 seconds of fire control radar data from a previously uncharacterized firmware variant had just been delivered to the Rivet Joint's recording systems. 11 seconds is a complete electronic fingerprint. The analysts were already writing their assessment. Sierra 4 locked him 4 minutes later and held. 7 seconds. 8. The lock tone continuous in his helmet as Webb dove left, trading altitude for lateral separation, pulling 6G, the force pressing him flat into his seat with the complete indifference of physics. 9 seconds. Harder. 10. The lock broke as the F-4's fire control radar lost coherence through the combined effects of Webb's maneuvering and the degraded tracking geometry. The Iranian pilot fired anyway. At 4:47 and 23 seconds, an R-60 infrared-guided missile left Sierra 4's weapons rail. The R-60 is a short-range heat-seeking missile designed for close-quarters air combat. It requires a valid heat signature within its acquisition cone and a geometry that gives it sufficient time and energy to intercept a maneuvering target. Neither condition was met. Webb had already vacated the airspace the missile was tracking. The weapon curved toward a ballistic endpoint well behind and below him. Every pilot in that sky understood the geometry. The missile was not going to find its target, but a missile fired in international airspace at an American military aircraft conducting lawful operations is its own category of event, independent of whether it succeeds. Abraham Lincoln's Combat Directions Center registered the launch in real time. The Battle Watch captain came up on the encrypted link with language that was flat and deliberate. Viper 1, weapons free. You are authorized to defend yourself. Webb did not fire. He pushed the throttle to full military power, pointed his nose toward open water, and departed the area. The 4 remaining F-4s gave chase for 4 minutes before fuel calculations made the pursuit arithmetically impossible. Their radio traffic during the chase was excited and declarative. It was the sound of pilots who believed they had successfully defended sovereign airspace against an intruding stealth aircraft. That traffic was recorded in its entirety by a reconnaissance aircraft orbiting at an altitude the Iranian pilots never thought to check. Webb was recovered aboard Abraham Lincoln at 5:31. The debrief began immediately, but the more consequential work was already underway 60,000 feet above the Persian Gulf, where analysts were working through 47 minutes of recordings that Iran did not know existed. The fire control radar data confirmed what post-crash intelligence had suggested, but could not prove. Sierra 2 and Sierra 4 were operating a firmware variant that had not existed in the Iranian F-4 fleet prior to the accident. Extended coherent tracking range, improved target discrimination against low observable aircraft in look-down geometry. The performance improvement was measured at 15 to 18%. Those are modest numbers in absolute terms. But they were real, they were operational, and they had been distributed to frontline aircraft in the interval between one unexplained crash and one carefully engineered provocation. The speed of that distribution was more informative than the capability itself. Iranian engineers had recovered, was the revelation. Not the radar. Was the revelation. Not the radar, the velocity. The ground-based picture carried additional weight. Under genuine threat stimulus, Bandar Abbas's integrated air defense network activated emitters it had kept in minimal emission standby for months, deliberately quiet, deliberately concealed from American satellite collection in a calculated effort to deny a baseline picture. In 47 minutes of genuine operational activity, 3 previously uncharacterized systems declared their signatures to the Rivet Joint's sensors. One matched the profile of a locally produced active electronically scanned array operating in the L-band frequency range. L-band is the portion of the electromagnetic spectrum that creates the most significant detection challenges for stealth aircraft because the wavelengths involved are comparable in size to stealth aircraft structural features, degrading the absorption geometry that low observable design relies upon. The system was not a revolutionary capability, but it existed. It was operational. And before that night, American mission planners had not known it was there. 3 new radar signatures and 1 complete air defense communications architecture now existed in American target folders that had previously been incomplete. The missile launch carried its own analytical value of a different kind. It was recorded simultaneously on every sensor platform in the theater. The telemetry was unambiguous. The event occurred in international airspace during lawful operations. Washington filed no diplomatic protest, made no public statement. The record simply exists, preserved, time-stamped, and legally unimpeachable in classified archives, waiting for the moment when a documented justification becomes operationally relevant and the decision is made to produce it. There is an assessment that emerged from that night which no official statement will carry, and it requires stating plainly. The 6 Iranian pilots who launched from Bandar Abbas that morning were competent professionals executing a difficult intercept mission with equipment that was never designed to fight this fight. Their bracket geometry was correct. Their intercept timing was reasonable, given the information available to them. The decision to achieve radar lock before maneuvering demonstrated fire control discipline that genuine training produces and 4 decades of sanctions have not fully eroded. The missile launch, whatever its tactical wisdom, required a particular kind of nerve. These facts are true and they matter to any honest assessment of Iranian military capability, but competence operating inside an obsolete system is still, ultimately, obsolescence. The F-4E Phantom, upgraded or not, cannot track an aircraft that does not wish to be tracked for longer than that aircraft chooses to allow. It cannot close on a target that begins accelerating before the pursuit achieves viable geometry. It cannot threaten a pilot who understands with the cold certainty of physics that the weapons fired at him will not reach him. 6 aircraft against 1, and the 1 was never in danger. Not because of superior piloting or favorable circumstance. Because the machines themselves occupied categorically different generations of aviation history, and no firmware update closes a gap measured in generations. Iran's more capable platforms were not scrambled that night. The F-14 Tomcats, the Su-24 strike aircraft, the MiG-29s. Their absence is a question with several possible answers, and each answer is instructive in its own way. Command conservatism. Maintenance constraints accumulated across 40 years of sanctions-limited parts supply. An institutional assessment that 6 F-4s were sufficient for the contact on the screen. Any of these explanations reveals something meaningful about the distance between Iranian military rhetoric and Iranian military reality, a distance the Iranian public had no way to measure when state media described a triumphant interception the following morning. Tehran told its people that the Air Force had detected an American stealth aircraft, intercepted it with 6 fighters, fired a warning shot in defense of national sovereignty, and watched the intruder withdraw. That account contains enough factual material to function domestically. Webb did leave. The F-35 did not linger. No American ordnance fell on Iranian soil. The narrative held its shape for an audience that had no access to the 47 minutes of recordings that left the area with the aircraft that retreated. The retreat was not the mission failing. The retreat was the mission completing. Everything Washington sent that aircraft to collect had been collected. Every system Iran had kept quiet for months had been forced to speak. Every frequency, every firmware variant, every previously unknown emitter location now existed in finished intelligence products traveling up the American chain of command before the Iranian pilots finished their debrief. Iran had chased the ghost away. What Iran did not know and cannot know from the public record is that the ghost had already taken everything it came for, and the door it found open on the way out had been quietly, carefully, and permanently mapped.